Shabba de Bebop day, shabba de Bebop, shabba de Bebop, dilly do down. With the boys, the people to the up, the people to the table today. With the lid down, to the up, Charlie Parker. The people to the up, the people to let up, down, chop, days, the diddly bubble, but it lead that down, the dope down, the diddly bubble, the be bubble loud, the booty day, but up, the badoodly day, but let the down. They top, fully up, that day, suddenly bop, they but let up, to badood, let the suddenly double, they turn the way. Da ba dee ba doo la dee da, le da doo le da le ba doo le da ba dee da da. Yeah, I was born in Fort Myers, Florida in 1937. My dad was a singer. Him and my uncle had a little group that they played weekends, and, in my house I heard stuff like from the Ink Spots, like If You Didn't Care, and Louis Jordan, Caledonia, and Saturday Night Fish Fry, so the music was in the house. And that I was singing around 5 years old. I started singing, and that was the beginning for me. Then I heard Ella Fitzgerald, and I think I that changed my whole world. I think I was around 6 or 7 years old, and she just did it for me. It was like, what the heck was that? I did, she was scatting and doing stuff with songs, and it just changed my whole world. We moved to Philadelphia when I was probably about 8, and around 11 years old, I had started listening to cats like Nat Cole and Frank Sinatra, Eddie Jefferson, John Hendricks, and King Pleasure, and those guys were changing this stuff that I heard from Ella to a different genre. It was like, whoa, this is something different, because they were doing instrumental stuff, and putting lyrics to tunes that cats were playing, like James Moody and King Pleasure singing Moody Mood for Love, and Eddie Jefferson doing Body and Soul by Coleman Hawkins, and so I started doing that, and this was around 11, and I was going to jam sessions downtown Philadelphia, and also going to the Jazz of the Philharmonics, which just really tore me up. It was at that time at the Earl Theater on Market Street, Market and 12th in Philadelphia. And they had cats there like Earl Gardner playing piano. Actually, it started off with Nat Cole playing piano, and people like Buddy Tate, and they would have drum battles with Louis Bellson and Gene Krupa, and Max Roach and Cozy Cole, and Dizzy would be playing little jazz, and Lester Young. And as a kid, 11 years old, I was seeing all of this for like 75 cents. I mean, that was absolutely amazing. And during that time, all of that time, I knew I wanted to be on stage. I was singing, the guys on the corner, they were making me sing because I didn't have any older brothers, and I was singing in the schools and talent shows and hanging out on the corner and scatting, and carrying my LPs. At that time they had 78s and 33 and a third, you know, and if you wanted to be hip now, you carried them on your side everywhere you went, so guys could see that you had some hip CD, you know, hip records and stuff. So I had mine, you know, and it was great, you know. I saw a lot of live music, and live music was always in the bars in Philadelphia. You know, you could go 2 blocks and you could hear someone like John Coltrane or Philly Joe and you know, just tons of people playing all over the place, and they were all living. A lot of them were living in my neighborhood. The jazz was right there. It was right there for me. And I absorbed every bit that I could get and tried to imitate all of that stuff with my voice. That's how you know, I got into this stuff way back, you know, before I moved out west. You know, I was working at the Showboat Jazz Theater downtown Philadelphia, man. And that was a dream come true. I got to be friends with cats like Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk, Horace Silver, Coleman Hawkins, Ray Bryant, Herbie Mann, you know, just anybody you could think of, anybody that worked there, and they worked there for 6 days a week. It wasn't a one-night gig, it was 6 days a week. And I would hear them say things that was absolutely amazing. Like this thing I talk about, Monk. You know, Monk used to come in on Mondays. You know, he would work there for 6 days. And Monday morning, he would come in while we were cleaning the bar. And he'd go back into the work closet and he would take out a broom and he would sweep the whole place, man. You know, and myself and Jimmy Coates, who was the other bartender, he was at the front of the bar. Jimmy asked, say, hey, Thelonious, you know, because he didn't like you to call him Monk, you know, hey, Thelonious. He said, why are you doing that? Why are you sweeping the place out? And he said, man, I don't want any of the guys from that other band in here. And I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. You know, just to get it all, sweep it all out, put new energy in the room. You know, he did little funny things, like him and Coleman Hawkins had the same thing about what they drank. Like Monk would come down to me and he'd say, give me a nail for my coffin. And I said, what? He said, yeah, nail for my coffin. And that's old granddad. And Coleman Hawkins would say the same thing. You know, it was so funny. Give me a nail for my coffin. Them cats knew that this stuff was killing them, you know, and that was absolutely amazing. You know, I have some great warm, wonderful memories of some of the greatest musicians I have ever encountered in my life, right there in that club. And you know, I got to hang with them and go to New York and hang out at Walter Booker's house. Walter Booker is the bass player with Cannonball, you know, and he was the guy that had all the smoke, you know. So we would hang at Walter Booker's house, and you would see anybody come through there. If they had a gig in New York, they would come to Walter Booker's house at the end of the gig. But Walter, you know, and I'll always be grateful for him, because he was the cat that told me, you know, that I could do this thing. He encouraged me to go ahead on and really go for singing. And I was trying to play drums. I taught myself to play drums also. He said, you know, go ahead and do it, man, you know, because I was playing Art Blakey's drums during the day and Max Roach's drums and Tony Williams' drums, and anybody that played at the Showboat, I played their drums during the daytime. They didn't know it. You know, I'd always put the sticks back like they wasn't even moved, you know what I mean? But that's how it was, man. You know, I had a great life back then. I was coming back from this recording session in New York, and I had a layover, and I guess about 4 hours before I went to back to Hawaii, and I figured I'd come downtown and have some food, and I was messing around and found a little sushi place, not knowing it was right down the street from Jimmy Mac's, you know. So I went in and had my lunch, and came out and looked, and man, there was this sign, you know, my sign, you know, jazz. You know, I said, oh, well, I better go over and see who's playing. There might be somebody I know. So I walked over and looking at the posters on the outside of the door, and I heard the music inside, and some guys were in there rehearsing for a show. Trumpet player, Memory, I forget his first name, was rehearsing the band for a show that night. And Jimmy was standing where he always stood every time I've seen him, at the end of the bar. And I walked over and introduced myself to him. After checking the place out, and I said, man, I sure like to play here. You know, he said, what do you do? And I told him what I did, and I gave him a rough of the CD that I was doing. And I said, I'd like to come back and play here, not knowing that a couple years later I would be moving here. That was the first time I met this man, you know, and it became a wonderful, wonderful relationship, him and I. A very short one, but really good, you know. One of the things I like about it, when I worked there, he let bands play what they wanted to play, and I got a chance to play a lot of my original music, which was really cool, you know. I used to think that this music that I wrote had no value until I started recording it and having it arranged and stuff, you know. And now I do a lot of my own original music. And I didn't think that I had anything to offer, because during the time that I was going to school for music, I was really pretty much going to school drunk and loaded, you know, smoking dope and stuff like that. You know, I wasn't paying very much attention to what I was doing, but I retained a lot, you know, Like I said, I've played with a lot of great musicians, and I have an opportunity now to go and play with some other cats, you know, up in Seattle, guys that I haven't worked with. You know, and some of the people that have really affected my life, you know, I mentioned a lot of them, like my cousin, Mickey Roker, who recorded with me on my last CD, him and Bob Cranshaw, who just passed also, and Michael O'Don, you know, which is amazing for me that I got to play with probably one of the best rhythm section in the country, you know, and have them record with me, and they liked what I played, you know, and they even liked my songs, which was really, really, really great, you know. And, you know, and I got to play with Shirley Scott and John Handy, and the daughter of John Hendricks. Actually, I was on the stage with John only once. Michelle Hendricks. Got to play drums with Milt Jackson. You know, Joe Henderson. You know, I sang with him and Eddie Henderson, and you know, just scores of just great musicians. You know, that in my lifetime have given me the permission to be on stage with them, and they like what I do. And what I do really well. I like scatting. I like doing that bebop stuff, you know, and it feels good, you know, for a guy my age, you know, to be doing what I'm doing. You know, it's really something. But I can't say that I'm unique, because John Hendricks is like 94 and he's still doing it, you know. So there must be something in longevity in this stuff, you know, that we're doing, you know, because I still feel like I'm 19. You know what I mean? I'm having a great time when that music goes on. Whatever little aches and pains are happening, man, it disappears. It just disappears, and that is it, you know. And it sure is amazing, you know. I've had the opportunity to come down to Salem here, and the club here at Christo's, man, is absolutely amazing. All the musicians talk about it. Everybody wants to play here, so there we go. And you know, young cats, you know, young cats. This is my whole thing, man. I really believe that the young musicians are going to be the cats that bring it along, young jazz musicians. And one of the things I tell them all, you know, is to always look to the past. You know, I wrote a song about that. It's called Big Town. And it's about Dizzy Bird. Charlie Parker played it, and Dizzy wrote it down. And with that, we get to play it today, you know. And if you don't look back to where it came from, then you don't have any reference to the future. All the older musicians had to reflect back to get music to go forward. You know, Miles did it, Train did it, everybody did it, you know. So I try to have young musicians that play with me always play some stuff that comes out of the past so that they can understand where they're going in the future, you know, in playing this music, you know. And I try to stay up on top of what they're doing, you know. I'll do hip hop in a minute, man. I love that stuff, you know, and funk, you know. I like it all. I like it all, you know. If it's good music, then I like it. You know, I like it, you know, but I try to stay with the young cats, you know, and help them along, you know. Some of them don't need help, you know, but, you know, it's always good to be there and support them also, you know. Close to 70-something years, man, that I've been in this stuff, and it's been great. It's been great. It's been great. The good, bad, and the ugly, all of it's been great, you know. And that's who I become, David Watson, Dr. Bebop. That's me, you know.
Got the blues, I really don't know how to lose them. Got the blues, I really don't know what to do. Think about you, let me hold you in my arms and squeeze you. I feel so happy, I really don't know what to do. See, I love you so much, I can't do it. I try to wake up each night just dreaming all about your beautiful eyes. And all that loving is driving me crazy. Can't eat, sleep, I can't do nothing. Think about you morning, afternoon, and night. Some people have been a little bass, some people have been a little up, a little low. Dig down, squeeze, and pop, dip it, little, little, tweet up, little, tweet up, door. She better dip it up, shut the door, no, say it down. Some people have lit up, to the little, some people have little, up, the little,
Oh, it's cool, man. It's cool.
All right, cut.